So having completed the space frame or truss system, I thought it would be important to just spend some time thinking about where we could go from there, where you can go from there, and the way you might use kind of the techniques that you've learned. So I did this a few years ago. The idea we made that space frame, what can we do to modify it? So the first modification I had done to it was to actually place glass in here. So now you can see we have this semi-transparent material. I simplified the look of the truss a little bit on the bottom by creating a common chord here. Um, but obviously now we have something that is providing moisture or rain protection. You could imagine taking this the next step then and maybe making that solid to make it shade protection. In this case, I moved to wood right away. I guess really just to make a dramatic change in the way it looked. Um, but still keeping some of the ideas of truss systems. In this case, it's not a space frame truss, but it's a linear truss. So these are long beams that are stretched out. But once again, a really simple change to make a dramatic change in the way the roof system appears just by modifying that unit module that we've been working on. And, going through this process of then looking at that and seeing how it feels and saying, well, what could we do next? I took and eliminated the idea of that triangulated truss and made solid pieces of wood as if we were using kind of laminated timber. And now we have a remarkably different looking type of form. And I could see this being, well, actually, let's show you the next example here. This is the same or very similar thing played out in an actual kind of structure. So we took the connection here might be not very quick if you were to have made this space frame to actually see how this is, our first space frame with the white trussing, how this is actually exactly the same thing, just with a different kind of unit element within it. So keeping on that idea of what kind of flexibility we have with this idea of creating curved surfaces and then populating them with these unit modules, here we have the Sydney Opera House, a very famous historic structure in Australia. And I experimented with the idea of, well, could we start to think about using our truss elements to actually maybe recreate this kind of envelope or shell. So quickly, once again, in this case, I made a new shape, kind of mimicked the idea of the way the original was constructed structurally, and then applied that same idea of a truss system. So I could easily see you doing these same kind of techniques in studio and design projects. And not to leave us thinking that that technique is only to space frame systems. We now know how to create these curvilinear forms. So we could use them as wall elements. So we can create that kind of a mass system, and then use our wall by face tool in order to create wall systems, and then to a really dramatic kind of change in the way we make and think about walls. So I guess hopefully that's a little bit of expansion on your thinking about what we can do with the techniques that we've learned.